in the who is watching this. I'll be back. No, you can't have that dog. Anyway, so we're talking about Michael Ovitz. Michael Ovitz was the head of Creative Artists something. It's the biggest agency for actors, etc., in Hollywood. And he mentioned the gay mafia. Okay, they chased him out of town. Now he came back. He was head of Walt Disney Studio, Walt Disney Company CEO for a while, and then Michael Eisner came in. But he told the truth. All right, he told the truth, and the reason is that they chased him out is because they don't want to hear about it. Now you can imagine you're the most powerful agent, one of the most powerful men in Hollywood. You're not into the weird shit. You don't like it. I mean, you could even be a gay guy who's just living his life, doing whatever, and you see bad shit going down. What are you gonna do about it? What are you gonna do about it? You know, you might say something in public. You might call it the gay mafia, and you know they're gonna come after you. Why? They don't want to be pointed out. They don't want people to even really know they exist. We've got David Geffen, and others within the business that, wouldn't shock me. Bryan Singer, who's hiding in England because he knows if he comes back, he's going to be dragged off to jail. Hey, age boomer, and that's the truth. Thanks, Planet Musk, and he knows that. But it's even deeper than that. All right, first off, we've got that child abuse. Again, these guys go after boys that have just reached puberty or older. They're called pederasts. A pedophile goes after kids that are younger. Okay. And the idea that they can't be straight or gay or bi is ridiculous. Yeah, it's been really bad. I mean, last night I was watching Cameron on Latino Slant with Polly and Mike, and it was like, I mean, they were like having a hard time. It was on their computers, not on their phones. It was really weird. But let's talk a little bit about Satanism. Okay. I know for a fact that there is a deep bunch of people in Hollywood. Just wait. Kojak. Okay, good boy. Good boy. Good boy. What are you eating? Anyway, there's a deep-seated thing in Hollywood, and it has something to do with Satanism. Okay, it really, really does. They don't really want people to know about it. When you look at the way they react to Chris Pratt, cool, Planet Musk, you can tell there's something beyond that. Having someone like him in their midst frightens them. Oh, Asia, it doesn't, shock me at all. I mean, I was having a conversation with somebody, and we were talking about the fact that Kathleen Kennedy probably has a Me Too allegation against her by other women. If you notice that picture of her with all those girls, they're all very young and very attractive. Okay, think about it. I had a very good friend of mine say out loud in public on his Facebook page, he is a well-known director, that girlfriends of his who are actresses will come home crying, saying, I get the part if I sleep with the director or the producer. The producer could be a male or female. Okay? When he says there's a satanic element going on there, he is not joking. Okay? And they don't want anybody who reminds them of their own poor lifestyle choices anywhere near them. And they don't want the general public, me and you, to know about it because we would be up in arms. Okay? We would be up in arms. There's a reason, back in the 90s before. Kojak, get out of there. Come on. I may have to put him in his house again. Back in the 90s, that you would be reading something about Mel Gibson and you would see someone. Yeah, I do. And that shit, we've seen the pictures of Will Ferrell sitting at, oh God, Abramovich's, I think that was her last name, that witch, she's a performance artist. She's a witch. And with her spirit cooking stuff in Hollywood. Okay, these people don't stop doing that. I will be back. Kojak, you gotta go to your house. Come on. Come on. Come on. I've got it. You want my attention. House. House. I'm back. Okay. That stuff happens though in Hollywood. I mean, Madonna's involved with it. Lady Gaga. I've seen pictures of her, and it's like you were raised Catholic. What is wrong with you? They get God. Somebody there gets them and drags them into their weird little thing. I mean, I was told stories about being taken to a friend of mine being taken to sex parties where you put on a mask and you can fuck anybody you want. Ick. But that shit happened all the time. Okay. And they don't want us to know about it. And it's very interesting. But I do think that there's a part of Hollywood that doesn't like it, that doesn't take part in it, but gets lumped into it. When I see bitter, failed writers going after Steven Spielberg in this pedophilia stuff, or George Lucas, here's the thing. This is how they came up with this. Okay, this is really just brainful because there's no historical context. They're obviously after underage girls because Indy and Marion. Remember when she said she was a child? She could have been 18 fucking years old, and it would have been she was a child. Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, and the fact that back in the 20s, girls got married very young. In fact, my mom and dad were barely 20 years old when they got married. Okay, so when I hear some bitter, angry, failed script writer bitching and attacking the two of the most successful filmmakers in the history of film and trying to use a part of a plot so they could smear them with this pederast whatever, it's like, no, bitch, that's you. First off, you want to talk about this, talk about the people we know who actually did it. Don't be, spreading gossip and rumors about people and you don't even know them. And I know for a fact that now more than one of these people pitched scripts to Steven Spielberg and he said no. All right. Every bad thing that ever happened to them since then is his fault. because he didn't like their script. This is how some of this shit happens. Okay. If you want to convince me, George Lucas? What are you fucking smoking, dork boy? If you want to convince me that that they're part of this shit, give me direct goddamn evidence, and not some sly, dark web thing written by somebody who doesn't leave their fucking real name, or some blog written by a bitter, angry, failed writer. Okay? All right? It doesn't fit them. Tom Hanks. All right? We had a girl on Twitter start blathering on about him and how her dad sold her to him. Now, again, it's a he said, she said thing. He has never said a word about it to her. She disappeared, thanks be to God. I need proof. I don't need her recollections. It's just like this. When you've got, oh Christ, Anthony Bourdain's ex-girlfriend. Shit. When you've got two bitches attacking Harvey Weinstein, and then you start going through the files of their little lives. Asia Argento, bitching about Harvey. And then you realize she seduced a 16-year-old boy. And every guy is looking at her going, well done to the 16-year-old boy. And it makes her look stupid, right? Yeah. Okay. So you're looking at this going, this is all bullshit. Yes, Harvey's a predator. Yes, Bryan Singer's a predator. Bryan Singer especially. Okay. Yes, Bill Cosby's a predator. All right. But a lot of these women who called them out were basically whoring themselves out for roles. Okay. I'm sorry, but I'm sad. I'm sad it happened. But if you could see you from where I see you, all right, the same friend who told me about the girlfriends that he had that were offered roles if they, fucked a producer, also said actresses are some of the craziest people he's ever known. Beautiful, batshit crazy women, okay? It's true. And when you look at the accusers, and some weren't actresses, and some never went anywhere. I mean, this is the thing, is that some never went anywhere. I mean, Rose McGowan, my favorite thing is that she breaks up with Quentin Tarantino and then attacks him for Harvey Weinstein. You're just lumping him into that because you're no longer dating him and you're pissed at him, you bitter. And she's starting to be one of us. But still, you don't do that. If it happened and you are totally innocent and you didn't whore yourself out to the guy for a role, hey, you know what? Here are the people I believe. I believe Gwyneth Paltrow. I believe Angelina Jolie. Because Angelina Jolie, he tried to jump her, she left. And never worked with him again, and she didn't need to. I mean, but Asia Argento, I'm sorry, but after the shit that went down and everything we found out about her and the way she treated Anthony Bourdain, it's like, look, bitch, I'm done. You are a scary woman. And her dad, I wouldn't doubt that she was abused as a child. All right, I wouldn't sexually abused as a child because she behaves that way. However, she's part of something sinister within the movie industry that they don't want revealed. And I do believe you've got the spirit cooking, you've got, witches cults, sex cults, that one that was, what TV show was that? That one of the lead actresses is now in prison for? Because she was basically a madam for it. That stuff is all real, and she was small fry. They're not going to go after the big names. They're not. They're not going to go after the David Geffens and the Jeffrey Katzenbergs and the rest of them. I mean, you know, they're not going to go after the Robert Igers unless it gets leaked out there. Allison Mack, yeah, all right. You know, they're going to go after her. They're going to go after the small fry. Meanwhile, the bigger names get to go merrily along. Here's the deal. Remember the Stanley Kubrick movie? Remember that? Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise? Eyes Wide Shut. That was about Hollywood. And then he died suddenly before it came out. You bet your sweet baby that was about Hollywood. That's a satanic cult. I actually watched it the first time and thought, oh my God, it's Scientology. But then I thought, no, Tom Cruise would never ever make a movie like that. So I started thinking, and then started talking to my Hollywood friends, and they're like, it's about Hollywood. It's about the movie business. And when you watch it, you don't see some of the people getting, oh, his movie is doing really well on Amazon, and the anti-Christian bigots and Satanists are screaming for his head again. You know, again, you know, you've got Robert Downey Jr. Unfollowing everybody except for 40 people, and unfollowing the entire MCU on Instagram. If he does it on Twitter, then we know something's going on. But, you know, and then this is another thing that's really funny, because I actually think this jackass is part of it. Sean Penn went out and attacked cancel culture. There's a guy that needs to worry. He was married to Madonna, beat the shit out of her. Married to Robin Wright, abused her. You know, but he's attacking cancel culture. So you've got the usual suspects, the anti-Christian bigots, the nihilists, the atheists, the pagans. Sorry if you're a pagan, all right, but you know, it's really funny after studying Norse religion and Greco-Roman religion and cults, Egyptian religion, and the rest of it, I go, I don't want nothing to do with that. You can sit there and give us the shiny new, you know, rated G version of your whatever you believe in. I still go back and think about Christians thrown to lions, Nero using human beings as torches to light Roman streets, Christians again. You know, Norse savagery with the blood eagle. Go look that up if you don't want to see what the blood eagle is. So when I see people talking about paganism, I just go, you're not a pagan. You're not. All right? Because a true pagan doesn't value human life. Because those people who were did not. If you watch the TV show Rome, if you see the Passion of the Christ, you will believe, you will see that Romans at the time of Christ's crucifixion, at the time before when Julius Caesar was it's this, okay? They were totally into savaging each other. They did not value their own humanity. There is a moment where Brutus's mother, there's a place in the house where you see the death masks and masks of various members of the Bruti family who had been dead. And she takes Brutus's mask and holds it up to her face. And her servant, slave, don't do that. The only time you ever see any human feelings towards who is Steve Reeves? I don't even know who you're talking about. Romans inhumanity to man is a testament to their lack of real connection to each other. And the moment that changed was the moment Paul landed in Greece and started spreading the good news, where each individual is loved, where each individual is known by God. Okay. And it is very interesting to me watching people who embrace paganism not understand that. That was George Reeves. Yeah, that was George. You know what I'm saying? So you've got that going on, and they're threatened. They're threatened. It's very interesting to me watching this all play out because I think basically Pratt's like, fuck off. Well, Asia, you gotta. My friend Lee Scott, American Biograph film or company, that's his company he started with some partners, left Hollywood because of all this shit. He just said, fuck it. He moved to Louisiana, built a studio there. Now he's in Las Vegas doing business things there, setting up things. It's going to be worldwide. And it's an independent company. And it's one of those things that I think that companies like that are going to start eating away at Hollywood's offerings, because Hollywood, until they decide to get rid of the woke shit, they're gonna keep failing. I mean, Black Widow is gonna crash, and everybody knows it. Kevin Smith's He-Man is already a laughingstock. These are the things that we need to think about. Okay, and it's really interesting to me. Animation, I think, especially if they do CGI the right way, where they actually make characters look more human, animation, digital animation is going to start taking over everything. Here's the deal. I mean, look at Mel Gibson. In the last 2 months, he finished one movie. He's in Paris right now, finishing up another one. He's busy as a bee, and he spends barely any time there, and it's very interesting to me seeing him. And I gotta tell you something. When I was watching oh god, anyway, I'll get back to it when I remember it. He's been accepted back, but he's not connected to them that much anymore. If they go back and make Lethal Weapon 5, I want him to direct it. And the reason why, it'll be what Richard Donner wanted, and I think that's the thing that he'll do. The Expendables 3. When I watched that movie, I saw a bunch of guys who, you had Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Harrison Ford, etc. Oh yeah, I mean, Stephen Dorff taking a baseball bat to Black Widow. They should be embarrassed. I think they're getting sick of it. Okay? I think they're getting sick of it. Sean Penn, Stephen Dorff, Robert Downey Jr., all of them. This is my thing. If when Indy 5 comes out And if it's not woke, and I don't think it will be, I don't give a flying fuck what anybody says. Indy 5 comes out, and it's a great romp, and it's making a lot of money, and the woke freak out. Yeah, toxic male and blah blah blah. Don't be surprised to see Harrison Ford bitch slap a bunch of them. And if he does it, then it's dead. Because that will be the declaration of death for them. Because Steven Spielberg, for some reason, won't say this is enough shit. This is stop it. Tom Hanks won't, which makes me wonder about him. But I could see Harrison Ford making that comment. We're talking about all this, and I'm thinking, there's an undercurrent, there always has been, of resentment in Hollywood. And we've seen it play out with Kathleen Kennedy in Star Wars. Part of me thinks that she did it on purpose, but then I think she's so disconnected from the franchise, and she so didn't want to worry about it. She gave it to a bunch of woke people who, ooh, dog hair. What a surprise. What Planet Vlog? What? She gave it to a bunch of people who were gonna be political hacks and went on her merry way and did whatever she wanted. And then her disinterest and incompetence bit her in the ass, bit her in the bony fucking ass. She had no fucks to give about Star Wars. I bet you right now, if you asked her what the central tenets of what the hero's journey was in the OT, she wouldn't know. She wouldn't know. And if you then asked her, Star Wars Skywalker Saga 1 through 6, what is it really about? Right? And she wouldn't know. Who is it really about? It's about Anakin Skywalker. It is. When you watch all those movies together, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 6, you suddenly realize who it's about. Okay. Anybody who can sit there and make up casual lies about George Lucas after watching those movies is a jealous, bitter fuckstick. Okay. Anybody who doesn't understand, and I'll tell you something. I got into fights with these people. In fact, one named Michael McGruther blocked me because I said, where's the fucking proof? This is me. If you're telling me that Andy romancing a teenage girl back in the early 1920s is a bad thing, then, I don't think you know how you got here. Because I guarantee you, your grandfather or your great-grandfather, your grandmother was a lot younger than he was. Okay? That's what they did. The moment a girl reached age, she was old enough to get married. And there were lots of times back in the 1880s when very much older men married younger women because their wives died. Okay? So lots of times these young women were second wives. Okay? I think Woodrow Wilson, I think the first lady in his administration, that very young woman he married was, in her teens when they met. Okay. Her being in her teens isn't a bad thing. Here's the deal. Okay. My grandmother, my grandfather were in their very, grandpa came to the United States when he was like 17, 18 years old. Grandma was teaching first grade. He joined first grade so he could learn English. He met her. They fell in love. They weren't 20 years old yet. Shocked? Why? Okay. My parents were barely 20 when they got married. So some ass fuck trying to attack. Who are you talking? What are you guys talking about in the chat? Jorge Gutierrez? I don't know who that is. So some asshole who doesn't get what he wants writes a blog basically saying that, Steven Spielberg and George Lucas are pedophiles because Marion was in her teens and Indy was 25, and it's like, you guys are fucking morons. And I got into a fight with them over this. It is historically inaccurate for them to even state these things. And the reason why is the mores that they had back then were not ours, okay? Girls wanted to be married by the time they were 18, all right? And I'll tell you something. Girls, when they are young, teenagers, when they're 18 years old, are in the prime of their fertility, okay? And they want to get married then. I mean, when you read Laura Ingalls Wilder's, I think Almanzo was 10, 15 years older than Laura. She was 18 years old when they got married. Obviously, I think they had one child, another baby died. I think she had diphtheria or something when she was younger, and I think it probably hurt her physically in some way. But still, I mean, the idea that, back in 1925, that, 16, 17 years old girl wouldn't be, you know what I'm saying, to an older guy like that, is fucking bullshit. That's marriage bait right there, by the way, back then, okay? I mean, the Archduke of Austria-Hungary, Rudolph, his mistress, Maria Becerra, was 17. Yeah, well, yeah, they will, because, again, yeah, again, people, girls back then, when they reached that age, and you know what I'm talking about, they were considered eligible to marry. When back in the 1880s, when a girl went from wearing braids in her hair or to having it pulled back and long to having it up and braided, that meant she was old enough to be considered to be married. And sure, they still went to school. I mean, Laura taught school and everything, but she, she was old enough to be married. And, when you read the books, you could see that stuff happening. And same thing in the 20s, okay? Very young women, once they got old enough, you look at a lot of the actresses. Well, yeah, I know. And again, that's the thing, is that you can't, again, I said something in chat on Latino Slant last night. And you're right, Planet Musk. You're right. But I said something about history. You have to look at it objectively. You can't be subjective, which is why if I'm studying plantation history of the South, I am not going to immediately come down in the condemnation mode on everybody. I can with the Germans during World War II because that affected me personally. Okay, that affected my father and my mother. Hence, it affected me personally, what happened. And by the time that guy came to power, I think people understood right from wrong. And you know what I'm saying? And what those people did went against everything that mankind up to that day understood about humanity. It was the ultimate expression of man's inhumanity to man. And I'm not going to simplify it with hate. When you look at some of this, there's an economic value. I mean, in the United States, there was an economic value to slavery, but only 1% of Americans own slaves. Okay, so and when you start thinking about that, and you know, and we know this now from history, but even after the Civil War, race relations were going to take decades, if not a century, to come into some sort of understanding. Okay? My problem is that while those of us evolved past all the bullshit, Jim Crow and racism, Jay is 50? I thought he was 30. I thought he was like 38, and Jay's not 50. He's like 38 or 39. I told him he was 35, and he said I was close. And he said, I think something like 38 or something. He's not 50. You know, we've evolved. Those of us here talking, we've evolved past racism and all the rest of this stuff. And we don't, and I'm going to say this. People who use it as a crutch, they weren't. But it's really interesting when you watch that movie Gods and Generals, and Jeff what's his face is playing Joshua Lord's Chamberlain, and he's talking about black men. I'm like, you couldn't sound more racist if you tried. And I really hope they didn't talk like that. Okay, that bothered me. But we've evolved past it. There's a bunch of people on the left, and I've seen it up close and personal, in the Democratic Party that are hardcore racists. They're the ones that want to make black people think they can't vote because they're incapable of getting an ID. I mean, that's racist. Okay, you can get a driver's license. You can buy a gun. You can do all this stuff, but you're too stupid to get an ID. What the fuck? Okay. That shit is racist right there. They don't want to judge them on merit. Because the moment you find a black man or a black woman who's actually better than, candidate A, who's a white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, atheist, left-wing male, you have a problem. Because they're thinking for themselves. This is why a lot of people are sick of it. Okay. And I look at history very objectively. So I talk about the Native Americans. I talk about Plains Indian Wars. Tiny violin. I don't want to hear about it. I think about the soldiers who were underarmed. I think about how poorly the army was treated by the public once the Civil War was over. I think about the settlers who are coming from Ireland and Germany and Norway and everywhere with absolutely nothing, trying to make their lives better. Okay? I think about the women and children of the Indian tribes. And I think, you know what? There's a lot of shit that went down. And I'm going to say this. There's a part in the book, Son of the Morning Star, and it's about George Custer, the Battle of the Little Bighorn, and there's a lot of biography about Crazy Horse. And there's an excerpt from it where a white trapper or explorer or adventurer or whatever is sitting in a lodge of a Cheyenne chief, warrior, and they're eating, buffalo and doing the whole, parlay bullshit. And there's a long auburn scalp of a woman. And he asked him, "Where'd you get that?" And the guy was weeping. He had taken that off of a white woman. Okay, let me explain. All right, this is where it kind of gets subjective. There's a reason why certain elements of our society wasn't exactly pleased, is when the newspapers would come back and report shit like that. Okay? You want me to feel bad? All right, then there better not be any skeletons in your closet either. And my study of Native American history from ancient times to the Plains Wars has been nothing but bloodshed, torture, scalping, human sacrifice, etc. Yada 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 yada. Oh, wow. You guys were all dancing around fires singing, Kumbaya together, and then we showed up. My give a damn is broken. Okay, I have no fucks to give. All right. Brutality is my own ancestors, for crying out loud, the Vikings. All right. They were bastards. They were fucking bastards. I can say that very promptly. But as a white woman, these people who want to scream, "Oh, look at me, I'm a victim," it doesn't matter who they are, will go, "Yeah, they were." Then you say, "So were yours." All right? You want to talk about slavery? There's slave markets right now in Libya. Okay? There's still slavery in this world. But somehow, I know it's going to come back to some antebellum, fucking plantation in Georgia, and it's going to be that white family's fault. Get over yourselves. Okay? Get over yourselves. All right? I'm not going to sit here and say, "How can I be an ally for you?" I don't want to be your fucking ally. All right? I don't. All right? And the reason simply is this. I am not going to sit here and paint myself into some corner of bullshit to make somebody else feel good. Okay? That time, that has sailed. And oh, by the way, 99.999% of our families, white people in this country, didn't own slaves. Okay? This shit is built on goddamn racism, critical race theory, social justice shit. Okay? Plymouth Rock. Well, boo fucking who? Okay? And oh, by the way, the rumor that they put smallpox on blankets and gave them to the Indians so they would die, that you can't do that. That's not scientifically possible to do that. Okay, it's not. I mean, it's already been proved. Well, it's not just outsiders. It's the there isn't a certain empathy towards each other. All right, and it didn't exist. And if you think about the way Native Americans existed, up until the 1860s, they fought each other all the time. All right, I've said this. This is an example I use because when I studied Native American history, we did a lot with the tribes of Wisconsin, and I made really good friends with one of the Chippewa chiefs. And basically, what happened in the early 1600s when the French fur trappers showed up, they traded muskets to the Ojibwa. Oh yeah, I know, Evelyn. To the Ojibwa, the Chippewa, the Winnebago, the Fox, the Sauk, all the Indians in that area that were Mississippi east to the Great Lakes. Those tribes turned around and chased the Dakota, which are a Sioux, which are a band of the Sioux, across the Mississippi River and into Minnesota. So you've got Dakota, you've got Nakota, or like in Iowa and smaller, and then the Lakota. And everybody was pushed west. And the Lakota pushed the Shoshone, the Blackfeet, the Crow, etc., out of the Black Hills. But somehow, the Black Hills become Jerusalem to them. You only were here for 100 years before we showed up. Okay. Everything was moved west. And interestingly enough, the tribes that actually helped, the Shoshone, the Crow, the Blackfeet, were scouts. And what they did to Custer scouts, oh my God. They saved special kind of brutality for them, by the way. They were Crow and Blackfeet, and I can't remember. There's another tribe there in that. Those tribes, they got the land they wanted. The Shoshone have the reservation they wanted in the Wind Rivers. It is beautiful. Okay, now, I'm not saying the reservations are great. They're not. Trust me, I know this. The idea of treating them as separate nations was probably not a good idea. When you look at the way Oklahoma is built, the Comanche don't have a reservation. They have the Wichita Mountain Wildlife Refuge. Okay? All right. That's what they want. That's what Quanah Parker wanted. Oh, they'll never get the national parks, and they can go fuck themselves. It's just, look, here's the deal, and this started back in the 70s with, I think it was Marlon Brando sending that woman to not accept his Academy Award for whatever. It's just, you have to be guilty or white. Give me your land. Fuck you. Okay? Fuck you. All right? You lost fair and square. All right? You want land? Save up a down payment and then get a mortgage like the rest of us. Well, the Black Hills are considered sacred. All right? I've been there many times, and there's something to them. And it wasn't that they were fertile. You got to remember, the Sioux, the Lakota, were a nomadic hunter warrior tribe. So farming, which white people mistakenly thought they could do, it's what I call the Bush the George Bush administration disconnect. They're going to bring the Republican type of democracy to Afghanistan. No, you're not. Okay, it is not going to happen. Those people don't understand it. I mean, you're talking about a society that looks at the person who has the most goats is like fucking Howard Hughes, okay? And, okay. The problem with the whites that were trying to administer all this, you gave them land, you thought they would farm it, they didn't understand it. There's a disconnect. These people aren't like you. They're not. When we landed at Plymouth Rock, we ran into tribes that actually farmed. They actually grew corn and pumpkins and all the rest of that stuff. Okay. They were well more advanced than the Plains tribes. South of us, before the Spaniards came, there was a very advanced society. The Aztecs, the Olmecs, the Mayans, and they were city builders and all the rest of the stuff. They were also really, really, really cruel. Okay, really cruel. And I look at that the movie Apocalypto as being less about anything relevant and more about a warning about where society could go, back to that sort of brutality. Okay, but again, you have a society that doesn't value human life, that doesn't value innocent life. Okay, all the way down into South America, where the Incas, you have human sacrificial victims. You know, it's very interesting to me. You know, when I look at these people, I don't see, you know, pastoral Indian warrior riding along on his horse with a herd of buffalo. Now I see a guy with several, you know, scalps on his belt. Maybe women and children. It doesn't matter if they were white, black, or red, yellow, purple, or chartreuse spots. Somebody who, by his very nature, is not an innocent person. But he doesn't understand those human lives he took are sacred and should have been left alone. All right? There is the problem there. Okay? You know, if you live your life to do war, that's what you're gonna get. That's what you're gonna get. Okay? Anyway, I'm sorry. I've got like 16 people in here. I wish I had more. Doomcock's last video was on Star Trek, and I was like, you know, oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't know as much about Central and South American native indigenous peoples as I do about the Plains tribes. It's interesting historical reading. When you read the history and you're there, you can see the land. You're trying to figure out what were they fighting for? What? Because without a really good imagination, you can't imagine, you know, cornfields and wheat fields and, you know, herds of cattle grazing and all the rest of the stuff that there is there now. You know, the BLM, you know, protects it to a certain extent. Now they're going after the wild horses again. And the Biden administration won't stop it because, you know, we can't, you know what I'm saying? I don't even want to get into that. I do not care for the way the wild horse herds are being administered in the wild lands that we have. You know, they capture them and they hold them in holding pens. And they'll have like an auction where certified people can go and buy a few and then break them, turn them into riding horses. But still, it's like, you know, anyway. But it was about Star Trek Discovery, and I'm like, you know. So anyway, I gotta go. I've been on for a long time, well over an hour, and I'm gonna rock. So, you know, sorry for getting a little bit rowdy here, but you know, I look at cancel culture as falling apart right now, and I really think that what happened with Gina and then now with Chris Pratt is going to come back and haunt him. So I'm not going to apologize. I never do. Anyway, Steph, signing out. I'll see you around the galaxy. Hopefully Doomcock will have a video today. Please.